Hello everyone, welcome to Indian Polity Mastery. In this session, we are going to discuss about emergency. So you might have heard about this term emergency. Okay, so emergency is actually mentioned in part 18 of the Constitution. So we already knew that our Constitution is divided into various parts, and presently we are having around 25 parts in our Constitution, and in that 25 part, the 18th part is actually dealing with emergency. So what is the relevance of actually emergency in a particular country? So that we need to understand. To safeguard the sovereignty, unity, integrity and security of the country, the democratic system of the country and the constitution of our country, we are actually declaring the emergency. So the purpose of emergency is to safeguard the sovereignty, unity, integrity, security, the democratic system and the constitution of our country. So how do we do that? Okay, how can we safeguard these things through the concept of emergency? That we need to understand. But we need to clearly understand about the constitutional provisions regarding the emergency. So where it is actually mentioned in our constitution. So already we mentioned that part 18 of the constitution is actually dealing with the emergency, and in part 18 of the constitution, article 352 to article 360 of the constitution deals with emergencies. That means 352, from 352 to 360 of the constitution, it clearly explains about the emergency in our country. Okay, so why do we declare emergency? That is also a question. Okay, so first thing is like to safeguard the security, sovereignty and unity of the country. That is very, very important. And apart from that, to meet the abnormal situations in an effective manner. That is the main criteria or the main the crux or the essence of actually declaring the emergency in a particular state. So during the time of declaring emergency in a state, what happens is the central government becomes supreme. Okay, in this particular situation, the central government will get more powers and they will become more supreme in nature, and everything comes under the control of the union government. So as we all know about it, that we are having a federal form of government. If you look at the nature of the governmental structure in India, you can see that it is a federal form in which we have a union government and we also have a state government. But during the time of an emergency, every powers will be coming under the control of the union government. So it actually getting the character of a unitary form of government. So we are actually considered to be a unitary and a federal system. That means it's a quasi-federal system and also a blend of unitary and a federal system. Sometimes we can see that the unitary nature is actually supreme, and especially one such circumstance is the declaration of emergency in a state. So this is during this time the union government becomes more powerful and they will get that nature of a unitary form of government. Now there are three important types of emergency. So when you talk about emergency, we need to understand the various types of emergency also. So what are those three important types of emergency? The first one is the national emergency. So here if you look at, you can see that national emergency. So proclamation of emergency, and this emergency is actually proclaimed or declared due to war, external aggression or armed rebellion. So these are the three instances or the three reasons why which we are actually declare a national emergency: war, external aggression or armed rebellion. So that is national emergency. In the entire country or in some parts of the country, we can actually introduce the national emergency. When it comes to article 356 of the constitution, it talks about the state emergency. So state emergency is otherwise known as presidential rule or constitutional emergency. Very, very important. So presidential rule or constitutional emergency. And what is the reason for actually declaring president's rule or a state emergency? Due to the failure of constitutional machinery in a state. So basically very clearly we need to understand here that it is not a national emergency. It is not declared in the entire country. It is actually declared in a particular state. Okay, when the constitutional machinery in that particular state becomes a failure, during that time the president's rule is imposed on that state. That is known as the constitutional emergency or state emergency. The last one, the third one, is the financial emergency. So when the country is actually witnessing a financial threat, or the financial stability is in crisis, or the credit of India is under threat, then we can actually declare financial emergency. But we have not declared financial emergency in our country from the independence onwards. We have never declared financial emergency in our country, but at multiple times we have actually declared national emergency and also the state emergency. Now let us try to understand the instances in which the national emergency declared in our country. Okay, if you look at in this particular slide, you can see that there are 3 times, okay, the national emergency has been declared in India. So what are those 3 times? The first thing was in the year 1962. So as you all know, 1962 was the year in which we were actually engaged in war with China. So India-China war, when the security of India was threatened by external aggression. So there was an external aggression from the Chinese side. So during that time our security of the country was actually threatened. That is why we have actually introduced or declared the national emergency. The second time was actually war with Pakistan. Okay, during the time of Indo-Pakistan war in the year 1971. Very important. So during that time, who was the Prime Minister? The Prime Minister was Indira Gandhi, and V.V. Giri was the president. Very important to understand. So these are 2 instances in which we have actually declared the national emergency. Okay, so the reason was the external aggression. Okay, the security of India was actually threatened because of the external aggression. The third one was actually little different. It was in the year 1975 to 1977. We have declared national emergency on the basis of internal disturbance. Very important to understand. But we have not mentioned this term internal disturbance when we were discussing about the introduction of emergency. There we were only discussing about a term called armed rebellion. So after this incident only, after this particular emergency only, with the 44th constitutional amendment, we have introduced the term armed rebellion, and we have replaced this particular term. Internal emergency was replaced with armed rebellion. So during this time, Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister and Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad was the president. Okay, very important to understand. We have actually declared 3 times national emergency in our country. The first time was in the year 1962, the second one in 1971, and the third one from 1975 to 1977. So that is actually different from the first 2 emergencies, because this was declared on the basis of internal disturbance. Okay, I hope you have got a very good understanding regarding the emergency and the different types of emergency in our country. Now, let me show you some of the important offers that we are actually giving from the Indian Polity Mastery side. So we have something called as advanced membership. Okay, the original price of the advanced membership is 14,999, but in this December month we are actually giving it on an offer price that is 2,999. And why we are actually giving that offer? Because as we all know, the Constituent Assembly was actually first met in the year 1946 in the month of December only. December 9th we have actually had our first session of the Constituent Assembly. So what we offer in the advanced membership, the first one is the weekly webinar. Okay, every week you will be having a webinar, free webinar on current affairs, the static topics, and also how to prepare for the examination. And apart from all these, with more than 300 videos and notes, we are actually covering around 16 courses under this particular membership, and all are recorded videos or recorded sessions you will be getting. So with more than 300 videos are actually there. So one is how to prepare for civil service examination, the foundation that you need, and the second one is the overview of the Indian Constitution, then the history of Indian polity, very important, the historical aspects we will be studying, the foundation for Indian polity will be studied, the union, state and citizenship as a particular course we will be studying, then the fundamental rights, the DPSP and fundamental duties, deputies, the president, governor and vice president, the prime minister, chief minister and the council of ministers, the parliament and the state legislature, the Indian judiciary, the local self-government, amendment, the constitutional and non-constitutional bodies. And apart from all these courses, the static, the conceptual courses, you are having two important other courses. One is based on the previous year's preliminary questions, and the second one is actually based on the mains question. So it is a comprehensive course. Okay, you will get all these courses with more than 300 videos inside that, with also with notes, okay, explaining the concepts. So grab this opportunity. This opportunity is only available in this month, in the month of December only. So grab this opportunity. I'll be there to give proper guidance for all of you in this journey towards success.